Welcome to Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. You are going to hear the stories from the eclectic life of a guy who is a professional counselor, a family man, a SWAT team chaplain, outdoor enthusiast, a guy involved with ropes, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, a chaotic Jedi, and who is a recipient of an honorary doctorate from the University of Adversity. Using these stories, we take the facts lead to concepts, and from the concepts we make a variety of life applications. Just a caveat about the facts. Most of the time we will tell you the facts just the way it happened, but once in a while we'll give you the facts the way other people remember how it happened, and that usually includes a tablespoon of embellishment. No harm is meant, just good, clean fun for educational purposes. Please subscribe and share this with your friends. As always, we thank you for keeping up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Faulkner University introduces the Master of Arts in Christian Counseling and Family Ministry. Many youth ministers are not well prepared for the complex challenges facing youth, parents, and families today. This program is not designed to fulfill any requirements toward becoming a licensed counselor, but it is designed to equip the career youth and family minister to do just that, minister to families, by integrating prevention-oriented counseling skills and intervention strategies within a church setting. The courses include, but are not limited to, counseling skills, counseling couples and families in crisis, family dynamics, human intimacy and sexuality, parent and character education, as well as church assessments. All courses may be completed online from the convenience of your home or workplace and at the time that fits your schedule. Most courses are only 8 weeks long. There is a 60% tuition discount for members of the Churches of Christ. Visit the website faulkner.edu/KGST. KGST stands for Curley Graduate School of Theology. That's faulkner.edu/KGST, or contact Jimmy Holland, Director of Biblical Studies Recruiting, at jholland, HOLLAND, jholland@faulkner.edu with any questions or to find out about the eligibility requirements for the tuition discount. Faulkner University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Are you famous? It came out of the dark. The dark. It was 2:30 a.m. and we had just left the river after trying to shoot fish with our bows. We'd been on the boat with the one and only Daryl Pickle, Mr. Taylor Stegall, and Mr. Hunter Schrader. And something about that trip made this little 9-year-old boy, made that little 9-year-old mind ask if I was famous. No, I'm not famous, but they said you spoke in front of 14,000 people. Do you know how many people watch Georgia play football on Saturdays? No, not really. Well, about 90,000 people. So no, I'm not famous. I travel and I speak and people listen to my podcasts, but people don't come to the thing that I'm at just because I'm the speaker. They would come to the thing anyway. They come to worship God, and when I speak, it's just part of the worship. If I speak at a conference and it's not a church, the people are there because of the topics and not because of me. And when I speak at a company or at the police department, it's because their bosses made them attend. When you go to a concert or you go see a play or you go watch a comedian or you go watch a sport, you go there and you go there just to see the singer, the performers, the athletes. Those people are famous. Recently, I got asked to speak at a gala. And I'm not sure what separates gala from dinner. Possibly it's the dress code. They'd asked me to come and speak and do the presentation talking about the book Grappling with Life, Controlling Your Inside Space. That's a very interesting presentation. To me, it's one of my favorite presentations to do, and it varies. It can be anything from an after dinner speech to a speech where we demonstrate the techniques. You talk about control the head, control the body, and somebody comes out of the audience and you have them sit in a chair and you do the little I love you grip around their nose and say, now turn your head or stand up, and they can't do it. We did that at Vestavia Hills for all the freshmen. I did the same thing at a private school in Tennessee. I did one at the Alabama Employee Assistance Conference at Orange Beach. The fun part of that is not only do we get to use the principles in the book for psychological help, but in those seminars, we get to really introduce people to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and show them the principles and demonstrate the techniques. When we did the thing at Vestavia Hills, I was pre-tricep surgery. I'd torn my tricep, and Ginger Tyler Sperlin, who is right now one of the newest minted 10th Planet black belts and a fellow Christ seeker, he went with me. And he's a smaller guy. He's taller than me, but he's much lighter than me. And so here you have these big, huge high school boys who wanted to prove who they were. And I said, well, come out here on the floor and hold Tyler down. You should have saw the place erupt when Tyler changed positions and swept this big football player. It was great. And he went with me and he highlighted all the moves that I usually want to talk about during the talk. At more than a few of these presentations, my dear friend Ben Hayes has been in the audience. And it's a running joke that, I invite him to these things just so I can beat him up on the stage. At more than a few of these things, he's the guy that comes up and I demonstrate all the techniques on him. On one or two occasions, we've done the Grappling with Life as an interactive seminar, and it's much longer presentation, but the participants are supposed to wear active clothing, and they actually get to drill the skills and learn both the physical and the psychological points. And in this seminar, they don't just demonstrate the techniques. They don't get to experience them from somebody putting them on them. They actually get to learn how to do them. Now, at this event that I'm speaking at, I was unsure if it was going to be a kinetic or a non-kinetic evening. I often refer to the blue jitsu, the self-defense stuff that we teach the cops. I call it kinetic de-escalation. So here I am going to speak at this gala. I'd gotten the invitation because of Tiffany Brightwell. Tiffany Brightwell is the wife and handler of Jason Brightwell, and she is the president of the North Alabama chapter of the Associated Builders and Contractors, and she had invited me to speak at one of their annual luncheons. And I've done a few lunch and learns for that organization and even done some of the experience-based teaching for their Future Leaders in Construction group. This Future Leaders Group is an immersive leadership and business development program, and it's designed for the emerging professionals, project managers, and general managers in the commercial construction industry. And I've been able to interact with their young group. So when she contacted me about coming and speaking at this particular day, I said, okay, so I have several options. We can talk about mental health. We can talk about stress management. We can do another suicide awareness, or we can do the Grappling with Life book. And her text response was wrestling, WRASSLIN, wrestling. So I showed up. That's what we did. And ABC sponsors a pickleball tournament. And the pickleball tournament that they sponsor contributes to a charitable group called Manna House. Manna House is a charitable organization started by Miss Fran Fluler. It's a 2 decades old program, and she started it by handing out food and supplies from her front porch in her garage. It has now grown to include programs called Mom to Mom, a Meals of Hope program that packages about 100,000 meals. They do nightly food distributions, and they have a backpack program or a perks program that provides snacks and ready-to-eat foods for elementary children who lack food supplies on the weekends. Now, if you'd like to help this group, you can contact them. I'll have their contact information in the show notes. But anyway, Fran was in the audience at the ABC dinner, And afterwards, she came up and said, "Hey, I would like to hire you to speak at the gala. I'd like you to come and speak at the dinner for the Manor House. We're going to do this, later in the year, and I want you to be my after dinner speaker." And so the annual event speaker is always a surprise. So the people who came to this did not come to see me, did not come to hear me. They came because of their support of this lady and her wonderful charity, and they came to get a very good meal. So I go into this thing not only as an unknown, but I go into this thing not knowing what to expect. I don't know what my audience is going to consist of. I don't know the demographic. I don't know if they're going to be young or old or active or inactive. And I wasn't sure if anybody was willing to get on the stage and see a demo, or if they wanted to get on the stage and be a demo. And sometimes when you're demonstrating with a crowd, somebody who's brave enough or has the personality type to get on stage, sometimes they like that spotlight. And you got to be really, really careful when you're demonstrating martial arts, because sometimes somebody wants to get on stage and upstage you. It's always good, if you're going to do demos, to have somebody that you've spoken with beforehand, to have a Ben Hayes or a Nick Stone or a Tyler Sperlin in the room, a known and a helpful uke, somebody who can demonstrate the technique and without getting their ego involved. And it's understood, hey, this is a demonstration. I'm not saying I can manhandle the person. The person is merely cooperating so you can see this in 3 dimensions and show you the technique or the principle of the technique. Years ago, I was doing a marriage workshop, and my part of the marriage workshop ended at noon, and the couples were going to have, several hours of free time, and then they were going to go on a date. They're going to maybe go out to the movies or go shop at Bridge Street or whatever. And so we're sitting around at the lunch table, and the men from the group and I were talking about UFC, and we're talking about grappling. And I told them that I goofed around. I played with the gentle art a little bit, and somebody said, "Man, I sure wish we could do some of that." And I said, "Well, you guys have 4 hours of free time. You come to my house. I've got a mat inside of my garage." The similarities between the Charlie Daniels song, "He's even got a mat inside of his garage," should have sounded a warning to the people involved. Well, they piled into their church van and they came to my house. Now, what was supposed to be letting some guys wrestle in my garage turned into a grappling seminar. Now, this was before I'd written the book, and I was even still just a blue belt. As I explained the principles, and I don't really teach moves as much as I talk about principles, balance and leverage and weight distribution and angles. This one guy, every time I said, "Now, this is the thing that we teach," this one guy would volunteer and say, "Well, show me how it works." And he volunteered to help me demonstrate. But this was a guy who did not understand that his role was to be one of those guys who let me do the thing. And the technique will work whether he cooperates or not. It's just I have to hurt him to make the technique work. But he didn't realize what his role was, and he decided that he had to prove me wrong. He decided that he had to prove that this stuff wouldn't work. He had decided he had to prove that a guy my size couldn't do this to a guy his size. And the age and size differential was substantial. And I explained every time, now look, I'm really not doing this to this big guy. He's going to allow me just to simply show you how this weight distribution thing works, or how I can do a sweep. And I was lying. He wasn't allowing anything. I put my hands on him and he'd posture. He flexed. He resisted. He countered. I'm showing a 25% technique and he's going 75% or higher. But please bear in mind that a trained man should overcome an untrained man with monotonous regularity. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying something I'm not. I'm not claiming to be something I'm not. I can line people up who can control me, who can counter me, who can neutralize me, who can tap me out. There's a blue belt at our church who leg lock me anytime he wants to, and I can't stop him. If I were trying to disrupt the demonstration, and the guy giving the demonstration can continue to talk through your demonstration, if he can continue to talk and make eye contact with his audience through your disruptive resistance, it will either de-escalate and you'll go, oh, wow, I need to calm down, or it will exacerbate the situation and the guy will turn up the heat. You can probably guess which way this went. To his credit, he finally put me in a position where my skills as a jiu-jitsu guy were probably not up to the task. We were talking about, some bottom position controls, and this guy put all his weight high on my chest, and I couldn't move him. He had his 250 plus pounds of bulk on top of me, and I could not get to the position and execute the sweep I was trying to demonstrate. But I've not always done jiu-jitsu. I grew up watching Georgia Championship Wrestling, and one of the things they tell you at the beginning of every wrestling match is no eye gouging and no fish hooking. Well, fish hooking is in my repertoire. And so I placed the first two fingers of my left hand into the right side of his mouth, and using the time-honored principle of control the head, control the body, or to modify the sage words of Kerry Robinson, where the head goes, the assets will follow. I rolled him onto the mat, and I got on his back. And I made fists out of my hands, and I extended my thumbs, and I put my thumbs under the jawline, accessing the hypoglossal nerve joint just rear of the mandibular angle. This pain caused him to raise his head like a snapping turtle crawling across the bottom of the swamp. And then I returned to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and used a little technique known as a rear naked choke and put him to sleep in my garage. Just another minor step toward me and the powers of the dark side. So, for this gala event, I wasn't sure if I was willing to risk anybody coming on stage. And I wasn't sure if I had decided not to do so, and then would cave to the pressure of somebody saying, I don't believe it'll work, or hey, show me, let's see a demonstration. Hey, show Bob how it works. So normally when I speak, my wardrobe is Jackie approved. Now, you need to understand that if you walk out wearing something and she goes, you're not wearing that, are you? That's not an interrogative. That's not a rhetorical question. It's an imperative disguised as an interrogative. It's what we call in neuro-linguistic programming as Jackie knees for, you are not wearing that. And I'm not really a slave to fashion. And, I know there's formal and there's casual and there's dressy casual. And so I chose athletically formal. And by athletically formal, I meant I was going to dress in such a way that if I needed to, I could take my jacket off and do some demonstration. So I wore some conservative black pants. I wore a black T-shirt and a lightweight dinner jacket. Now, since the event was before 7 p.m., I felt like I could get away without a collar, without a tie. So the jacket and the black pants and the black shirt was okay. And it turned out that I fit in pretty good with the crowd. And so I got there early. I had laid out the copies of the book because everybody that attended the banquet was going to get a copy of the little book. And I set the books out at the edge of the stage, and Fran had provided these as a gift to everybody. And Fran had reserved a table for me. And she said, you're going to sit at this table and you'll be with some of the local pastors. And she said, why don't you just, since you're here early, why don't you just hang your jacket on the back of that chair? And that way nobody gets the place that you're in, because the place you're in faces the back of the room. And when you get up to speak, nobody will be in that chair and have to turn around to hear you speak. So I hung my jacket over the back of the chair to reserve my seat. And then I began just to wander around the Jackson Center. I walked outside and looked at the paintings in the lobby and got on the elevator to see if it would let me go up or down. I looked at the charcuterie board. I looked at the hors d'oeuvres. I looked at the drink tables, and they were only serving water and tea. I looked at the plaques on the wall, and I just kind of mingled and walked around. The crowd slowly filtered in, and proof positive that I am indeed not famous. I only knew two other people in the room. I was in the back talking to Rusty when all of a sudden somebody took the podium and announced that there would be a prayer, And then we'd all line up to eat. I wasn't even in my seat, and they started this thing. Proof again, I'm not famous, and they'll start things without you. The speaker said one side of the room will be using the serving tables to the left, one side of the room will be using the serving tables to the right. And if you need any assistance, please ask any of the serving staff who are dressed in black. And there I stood in the back of this room, dead center, dressed in black. I was standing up against the back wall. Rusty had walked off, and 225 people turned and saw a guy dressed all in black, my light-colored dinner jacket being on a chair way, way, way away from me. And 225 people in the room turned and thought I was a waiter. I had several people say nice things to me about the food. I had several people tell me nice things about the way the tables were decorated. Anytime that I approached a line to get in it, they would part as if to let me through. I helped a guy with his tea. It was somewhat fun to have that much anonymity. Eventually, the eating was finished and I was introduced and I got to go do my talk. And the people were very kind. They were very receptive. They were very complimentary. Maybe with the addition of the jacket, no one thought, hey, isn't that guy the waiter? Or maybe with the addition of the jacket, somebody thought, the guy who spoke poured my tea for me. I'm just not famous. And I really don't think I want to be famous. Not in the sense that people fawn over you or they seek special audiences with you or they want your autograph or your endorsement. And it's nice that people listen to my podcast. And it's nice if people find value in the things that I've written and they read them. And I really do. I really enjoy speaking. But if I show up somewhere to speak, and I show up somewhere to teach, or I show up somewhere to do a seminar, I want to be approachable. And if I show up somewhere to speak, or I show up somewhere to do a seminar, it's not insulting to me if I get mistaken for one of the servants. I was in a room full of servants. I was in a room full of people who'd given money and lots of it so hungry people could eat. So moms could have supplies like diapers and formula so struggling people could have resources. And it was okay if the other servants thought I was a servant. It should be our goal to be seen everywhere we go as servants. Because ultimately it's not about our power but our influence. And some of the most influential people in the Bible were servants. We should all strive to be seen, not mistaken for, but legitimately be seen as servants in our community, in our neighborhood, the places we work, on our team. It's much more important to be the best team player than it is to be the best player on the team. Paul is writing to Timothy, and he tells Timothy to tell the people who are rich. He said, don't put your trust in riches. They're uncertain, but to put your trust in God. And if you're rich, you need to be rich in good works, to do good, to be willing to give and ready to share. That's real wealth. That's real resources, rich in good works. It probably won't make you famous, but I've never seen a true servant who wasn't happy. If I show up and you don't know me, if I show up and you don't recognize me as the guest speaker, if I show up anywhere and you think I'm a servant, I don't really think that's an insult. I think that might be the greatest compliment you can give me. If you show up and you are a servant, it is the greatest thing that you can be. It's more important than being important, and it's better than being famous. Jesus said a disciple who is fully trained will be like his master. If your master is a servant, The greatest thing you can ever hope to be is a servant.